It's time now for the big story, and today Labour celebrate 100 days in power. But after a tumultuous start in office following the freebie scandal, the winter fuel payment cut for the elderly and the relinquishing of British sovereign territory overseas, is it really a cause for celebration? Let's get the views of former senior Labour advisor, a man who has dragged himself away from his in-laws and a kind of autumn barbecue, Matthew Torbit. Matthew, great to see you. Thank you for coming in.
No problem.
And giving up that sausage. What do we make of the first 100 days? Is there any way you can put a positive spin on this?
No, and I would be denying reality if I was to try to. I think if you were going to take some positives from it, I would think making moves towards Great British Railways is a good thing. I think anybody that travels on the railways in this country will, totally see it's a miserable experience. And when you have countries like Ukraine having a higher percentage of trains running on time than we do, you know there's something wrong. I think there's a lot of scepticism, but GB Energy will hopefully turn out to be something good and positive and will save people money. That doesn't seem to be the case right now, but that will be something else. And ultimately, being part of the Labour Party, you're not used to winning elections. We won the general election, right, with a healthy majority. I think a little bit built on sand. I think it's a very broad coalition that may well not last, but ultimately you've got 5 years to try and change something.
Well, I'm a bit worried about GB Energy because this involves the government investing in projects that the private sector have turned their backs on. And the only time the private sector have actually engaged is with massive subsidies. Isn't that a good use of taxpayers' money, particularly with this technology, which is still a gamble?
The proof will be in the pudding. I'm no expert on this sort of stuff. I still get on very well with people in Ed Miliband's office who are some of the more cleverer people I know in Westminster. So I trust them. I don't know Ed that well.
But it's my viewers' and listeners' money, isn't it? We are betting the house on flaky renewables. Does that not worry you?
No, I think what I would always favour is a sort of a base that covers all sorts. We can invest in nuclear. There probably is a place for coal somewhere, admittedly.
Oil and gas where needed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
we don't want to... But this is not what Ed Miliband is saying or doing.
No, I don't work for Ed Miliband or the Labour Party anymore. So but these are my views anyway. I am not.
So do you think, therefore, I know you're a Labour supporter and you're happy to have a Labour government, but do you think they're going too far with the net zero project? Are you concerned about how far Ed Miliband is going with this, including that stay of execution of 5 years for new petrol and diesel cars, which the EU are going to continue to make?
Well, I think the interesting thing will be, ever since Rachel Reeves at the 2021 party conference made the announcement over was it 15 or 20 billion, and there was really bad comms because they kept talking...
The black hole?
Yeah, well, no, before all this, there was this idea we were going to borrow money to invest. And they ended up scrapping it because they kept mentioning that it was 15 to 20 billion or 30 billion, whatever it was.
Yes, yeah.
And I thought, why are you doing that? You're just letting people know there's a load of money going somewhere where they don't know where it is. Ever since that was announced, it was briefed against almost immediately. Now, I have an idea of who it probably is, and they have quite a big role now in number 10, and now Sue Gray has vacated. So it'll be interesting to me to see whether it actually comes to fruition after all, or whether things do get slightly watered down or not.
Aren't a lot of Labour's policies an example of policies which sound good and come from the right place, but which don't work, such as the non-doms tax, private school VAT tax raid, and the workers' rights legislation? All very laudable, but in reality, bad news for those involved.
I think I've always been someone that's believed in evidence-based policy. If you look at the more recent rumours that capital gains tax may be getting a hike, maybe not to the point of income tax, but there or thereabouts, the Treasury's own figures show that you would actually lose maybe £2 billion because of the people leaving all of a sudden.
Correct.
If that's the case, you need to look elsewhere. I think the problem Rachel Reeves probably has and has caused for herself in the fact that she wanted to be so keen to stress that we can be trusted on the economy and my cast iron fiscal rules, she's tied herself in knots a little bit because now she can't raise income tax, which is always a useful way of raising money quickly.
I completely agree. VAT, income tax and national insurance, they ruled all of that out. Why would a Chancellor do that for 5 years? I think that was a mistake, because if the country needs the money, it needs the money. Instead, you look at the non-doms and, admittedly, the Tories began that policy, which I think was a political move to embarrass Labour and to steal their clothes. But that could cost the country money. The unions are worried about the VAT hike on private schools, with teachers potentially losing their jobs and 10,000 kids already having left the private sector. Where are they going to go? The local state school. So these policies, what about the workers' rights from Angela Rayner? France has superior workers' rights, but higher unemployment. Which is the lesser of two evils?
I think, again, it comes with a balance. That's like most things in life. I think I was proud to lead a campaign with Barry Gardner to try and stop fire and rehire. I think there is a imbalance between employer and employee in many cases that needs rebalancing and dressing out. I think with certain things, though, you do appear to have people that favour things like 0 hours contracts that are students and that may wish to use those to their benefit.
1 million people were on 0 hours last year, many enjoying the benefits. If you want a more secure job, there are 1 million job vacancies currently available.
I think you should probably have some minimum level of working, but you should have the right to maybe ask for those 0 hours. If so, I've worked on 0 hours contracts in hospitality before, and it used to terrify me that my hours could go up or down depending on how well the business was doing.
The problem we've got with this conversation is that I agree with everything you've said, but that's because you're off message. We're not getting the evidence-based policy making from Labour. We're getting ideology, aren't we?
Yes, possibly. I think there's some of it will be politicking, some of it will be, they will see it as
red meat for the base?
I don't know, because I actually think back to what the sort of only sort of new thing that seemed to come out of Labour conference was Keir Starmer, I thought, showing a little bit of leg and red meat to reform-type voters in saying, well, we're going to prioritise veterans with regards to homelessness and housing. Same with people that have fled domestic violence. And I think that sort of stuff is going, no, there's a home for you as well. If you want to drift back from reform, we can do that. I think the Labour Party doesn't really know where it stands on stuff anymore. I think it's not the Labour Party of old that most people would see ideologically as socialists or left-wing pragmatists or anything. I think we have a Chancellor who wants to cut her way to growth, which I'm no economist, but I don't see that working. And we have a Prime Minister who isn't really a politician, it isn't in his blood. Therefore, the team around him seem to be letting him down. Because if you were any good at politics, right, this summer, you'd have had a mini budget, because you would have filled the vacuum that has been vacated for stories to be plunged into that you normally get during silly season, but you've not seen how.
And all the negative headlines which are killing investment in the country.
Yeah, well, no, totally. And I think, I thought it was interesting the way that Lou Hague and the Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner was sort of thrown under the bus a little bit. But
well, indeed, Transport Secretary criticised P&O, said they're a rogue operator, urged people to boycott them. The only problem is the Prime Minister wants the head of P&O and the parent company to be at this investment conference this coming week. A right royal dust-up. Do you think Keir Starmer is ever going to get the hang of politics?
Well, that will remain to be seen. He wasn't my choice for leader. I never thought he was a good leader. I said this would last 5 years maximum. I don't see it lasting at all. I think
can he make it for 5 years, given the pressure he's under? Two years.
I've always thought so. So the way I could foresee, and I'm happy to be proven wrong, and I hope he turns this around. No, you can do. I can foresee a situation where, if the briefings continue, which may be from within the Labour Party and the government, a lot of this sort of stuff, in my most wildest dreams, that could be the case. If you've got a situation where in 2 years we have the local elections next year, mostly in Tory councils, so it's not a high benchmark for Labour. The year after you have Scotland and Wales, areas where traditionally Labour do well. I think reform will leapfrog the Tories in the polls. They will therefore also leapfrog us at some point. And you might have a Joe Biden situation where someone goes, Keir, if we keep you, we're not going to win. You need to do the selfless thing. You've done so well in getting us back on a government footing, but you need to go now and let somebody younger and more ambitious come in. Who
might that be? Are we looking at a Wes Streeting?
I think Wes is obviously always interested. I think for me, being at party conference, Rachel Reeves was quite clearly on leadership manoeuvres. The glossy
isn't Rachel Reeves Keir Starmer 2.0 there?
Well, I think that would be my argument. She's tied too close. I think she probably wants it, but you're the woman who can be blamed for the winter fuel allowance being taken away, and you're tied too closely to Keir in the first place.
I'm going to let you get back to that barbecue with the in-laws. Hopefully they've kept you a lamb chop.
We'll see.
Plenty of red meat in that conversation, so thank you, Matthew. See you very soon. What a brilliant conversation. There you go. Former senior Labour advisor Matthew Torbit. Your reaction, gbnews.com/your say. What a shocking line there. Keir Starmer could be gone in 2 years' time.